welcome back. You're watching Passion to Win. Our next entrepreneur's passion was motorcycles. And in 2000, at the age of 26, he took up the reins of what was beginning to look like an almost defunct unit. Today, he's credited with the turnaround and revival of the same motorcycle, the Royal Enfield. Let's take a look at Siddharth Lal's story.
A third-generation entrepreneur, Siddhartha Lal's family owned the prestigious Eicher Group. But it was a tiny business in the group's portfolio that really held his heart, Royal Enfield.
So I'm essentially a third-generation entrepreneur, but our family is not a very typical business family. So my father, mother, sisters and me, when we were growing up, we weren't talking about business all the time. It was, I think, a more holistic sort of atmosphere, and business was, of course, a part of it. And I grew up with the idea and the belief with my family that, I don't have to join the family business. There's no such pressure on at any level really. And maybe that was all a big plan by my parents, because I am a bit rebellious by nature. So I imagine if I'd been pushed really hard into business, I would have run a mile away. But because I wasn't, but when I was a kid, I used to actually love bicycles, and I mean, maybe it's a bit controversial, but I still probably like bicycles more than anything else in terms of two wheels, right? I love motorcycles as well, of course. So I grew up, with, cycling and knowing about automobiles a little bit, but I wasn't, really a piston head as or whatever it is. And yeah, but at some point, the interest started growing actually more in motorcycles.
Then in 2004, his father asked him to be the CEO of the Eicher Group. He agreed, but on his own terms.
In around the year 2004, when I was now 4 years into running Royal Enfield, in fact, that's the first time my parents said, okay, look, we need to plan some succession at the Eicher level, and the then CEO and chairman and my dad and me, we worked together, and I was like, no, I don't want to leave this place. This is I'm enjoying myself here now at Royal Enfield, and I'm really having a blast, and we're getting somewhere, we're doing interesting things. But I also understood that that was something that was there. So that's the first time that I was perhaps told or sort of nudged towards a particular area, and my response, as I said, it's there's a bit of negotiation always. My response was, great, I'll do that, but on my terms. And my dad was like, dude, absolutely, do it on your terms. And my terms were like, I said, we need to look at our entire portfolio, Eicher's entire business, from a clean sheet of paper again. And sometimes when I look back, I'm like, that entire thing, I don't know how I did it sometimes, but I actually sat down, we had internal teams, we had some support from outside, and we drilled down on the entire portfolio of Eicher from in the year 2004. We spent time, and I figured that, if you look at it, actually we were just mediocre. We were in 15 different businesses, we weren't doing exceptionally well in any one business. We were basically a mediocre firm, and we didn't want to face that reality, right? And that was it. That was a realization that we'd rather do one or two things really well than do everything mediocre. And that was it. And we sold the business that we started with, which was a very big business at that time in our portfolio, equal to our truck business, so the largest business perhaps. That was where my grandfather had started from. That's where my father had spent most of his years. And it was the toughest decision for me. And we sold 13 out of 15 of our businesses in our portfolio. And that was a tough time, because I was a kid again, still 31 or something, and 30. And what happened was that while selling all these businesses, we also got rid of an entire layer of management. A lot of people went with the businesses, and that caused obviously a lot of anxiety in the firm, but also, the word on the street at that time, I'm talking about 2005 or so, was that, okay guys, Eicher is now over.
Soon he put the truck division on its growth track by entering into a joint venture with Volvo while simultaneously working on growing his real passion, Royal Enfield.
When we were in the process of figuring out our future portfolio, what emerged was that the Eicher truck business had all the right ingredients, even though it wasn't one of the biggest. It was number 3 in India, a distant number 3 in trucks, but it was number 3 and profitable and had a very solid brand and had a very strong distribution and had good technological foundation and quality foundation. So it was on the back of that that we figured that we have a shot at let's say becoming a big truck company, and on the one hand, and on the other hand we figured that in the long term in India, in the next 20, 30, 50 years, transportation and logistics of an economy which is growing is going to continue to become a larger part of the economy, and therefore trucking is going to become a larger part of the economy. So the pie is going to grow, and we were at a very nascent stage, and it was also obvious at that time the big daddies of trucking in India. I mean, honestly, when you look at their product portfolio, when you look at their distribution, it was awful. It still is, I think, in some ways, but they've also come along a bit. But the trucks were awful. They were built awfully. The cabins were, wooden cabins. The horsepower of a typical 16-ton competition truck was less than that of your car on the road. So it was, the industry was going to be reinvented, and still happening. It's still not happened fully. But I look at things in a much longer time scale. I'm looking at it from a 10, 20, 30 year time scale. And at that point in 2004-05, we figured that the industry, the truck market is going to change, and we could be one of the players who can actually change the market. But we then decided that while we had the ambition and the grit, and we were like the David sort of chap there, we figured that we need some solidity and some muscle. And that's the muscle which we've got with Volvo now. So that was the Eicher truck side, which we believe could be a very powerful business, and it's certainly panning out to do so.
Today, Eicher Motors has a turnover of over 4,000 crore rupees, and Royal Enfield has had a 9x growth, selling over 4 lakh motorcycles in 2015. But Siddhartha Lal's philosophy still remains simple.
The organization is now actually quite focused in a way, because we have the core business in Eicher Motors is Royal Enfield. And we have, in addition to that, we have now 2 joint ventures. One is the big one with Volvo, and that's the big business that's in the order of $1 billion or 6,000-7,000 crore. Even though the market's been down, it's sort of got that kind of revenue. Profitable, it's been the most profitable truck business over the entire downturn in commercial vehicles. In addition to that, we have a very nascent, very young, very early stage joint venture which has just got commercialized. The products have just come into the market a few months ago. That's with Polaris. So that's the 2 joint ventures. But my time, my energy is now, for the last many years, has been on the motorcycle side. Motorcycles has grown remarkably, tremendously over the last 5 years. So in the year 2010, we had around 50,000 motorcycle sales. In the year 2015, we've crossed 450,000. So that's a 9x growth in those 5-6 years that we've done. So scale-wise, it's grown from in the order of few hundred crore revenue to what should be in the 4,000-5,000 crore range, which is a decent number now, but it's still growing fast. Very importantly, our business model has really panned out. So as a result, we have approximately 0 operating capital in the business. So our entire net block, which is our assets and all of that, is negated by our strong business model and our negative working capital. So we really have no money invested in this business. It's a free business really running for us. And despite that, we've got the highest profit margins, operating profit margins in the world today in automobiles, not only in motorcycles. So commercial vehicles, cars, motorcycles, we've crossed 5% operating margin. So it's a strong business which is running really well. It's firing on, well, it's single cylinder and it's growing well. So over the next 15 years, our ambition is to become a global motorcycle brand.
Siddharth Lal, the Managing Director and CEO of Eicher Motors, walking away with the Entrepreneur of the Year 2015 award for the category Business Transformation.
The winner is Siddharth Lal of Eicher Motors.
On this episode of Passion to Win. As always, join us next week as we bring you more inspirational stories. 3 more entrepreneurs from the fields of retail and consumer products, life sciences and healthcare and manufacturing will join us on the show. Until then, from the entire team, goodbye and many thanks for watching.